Picture this. Someone decides they want to try Dungeons & Dragons for the first time. Maybe a friend invited them, maybe they watch Stranger Things, maybe they just want to try something new. They sit down, they flip through the player's handbook, and they find it. The perfect character. A gnome wizard who loves collecting hats. They're excited. They're in. And then they make the mistake of Googling it. And suddenly they're reading things like, Transmutation Wizard is a trap. Avoid it. Necromancer is the only correct choice. If you don't have an intelligence of 18 by level 4, you're holding your party back. And their fun little gnome wizard starts to feel wrong. Like they're going to show up to the table and embarrass themselves. Like D&D is actually a homework assignment they haven't done yet. That feeling, that anxiety, that's not a new player problem. That's a D&D rules problem that D&D YouTubers are trying to fix but actually exacerbate. And today, we're going to talk about how exactly it happened. Here's the thing. D&D optimization content isn't evil. The people making it aren't trying to scare anyone. Tier lists, build guides, top 10 spells videos, that content exists because veterans love it. It's fun to theorycraft. It's fun to min-max, and it performs really well on YouTube because people click it. But here's what nobody says out loud. That content isn't just popular, it's necessary. Because the power gaps it's describing are real. A new player who skips the homework and builds whatever sounds fun is going to feel those gaps at the table. And the optimization community knows it. So they make the guides, they build the tier lists, they flag the traps, because someone has to. The problem isn't that the guides exist. The problem is that a brand new player, someone who just wants to play a gnome wizard who collects hats, has to wade through content written for 10-year veterans just to find out whether their character idea is going to work. YouTube doesn't sort by experience level. It just serves you the most popular answer. And the most popular answer was written for someone who already knows the game. So, a new player has two choices before they even sit down at the table. Do the homework, read the guides, watch the tier list videos, and learn which options are traps, and arrive anxious, second-guessing every choice they made, or skip the homework, build what feels fun, and find out the hard way that the game had a correct answer they didn't know about. Either way, something is lost. Either the excitement gets buried under research before the first session starts, or it gets eroded at the table when the gap between a fun idea and an optimized one becomes impossible to ignore. We are losing players. Real, enthusiastic, imaginative people. Not because the guides are wrong, but because the game should never have needed them in the first place. So why does this problem exist? Why does a game that's supposed to be about creativity and storytelling have power gaps big enough to need a whole content ecosystem just to navigate them? The frustrating answer is that Wizards of the Coast actually has a strong fundamental design framework. The core of 5th edition, the action economy, the advantage system, the proficiency structure, it's elegant. It's clean. It clearly came from designers who understood how to build a balanced game. But the framework doesn't get applied consistently across the whole system. Some options were clearly stress tested and tuned carefully. Others feel like they were designed in isolation without checking how they interact with everything else at the table. The result is a game where the foundation is solid, but the walls aren't all load-bearing equally, and the experienced player can feel exactly which ones aren't, and exploit them. The gaps aren't there because Wizards of the Coast doesn't know how to close them. They're there because somewhere between the design framework and the final product, the consistency broke down. An inconsistency in a game this complex is all an optimizer needs. Take the attribute system. 6 attributes: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. On paper, they represent the full range of a character's capabilities. In practice, some of them are dramatically more useful than others at most tables. Dexterity covers more situations than strength. Wisdom and charisma show up in social encounters, perception checks, insight checks, things that happen every session. Intelligence in a lot of campaigns mostly shows up when someone rolls investigation. So, an experienced player knows which attributes to prioritize. A new player picks what fits their character concept, and that gap in knowledge translates directly into a gap in performance. And this is just one example. The same structural imbalance shows up in classes and subclasses, in the spell list, in the action economy. The result is a game that is generally wonderful to play, generally easy to love, and generally punishes you if you don't know where the traps are buried. But here's what it also means. These aren't mysterious, unfixable problems. They're structural. They have specific causes, and the specific causes have specific solutions. The gaps exist because of identifiable design decisions, which means they can be closed by making different ones. That's not a hypothetical. That's what 4 years of work looks like. I want you to imagine a different version of that new player experience. Same person, same excitement, same gnome wizard who collects hats. They sit down, they build their character based entirely on what sounds fun, what fits who the character is. No guides, no tier lists, no homework. And then they show up at the table, and their character works. Not just works well enough, not just contributes a little, actually works. Holds their own in combat, has meaningful moments, pulls their weight in exactly the way an experienced player's carefully optimized their character does. Because the gap between those two characters, measured in the numbers that actually matter, is negligible. Not because the veteran player played worse, because the rules stopped rewarding them for knowing more. That version of Dungeons & Dragons doesn't ask a new player to choose between doing homework or feeling the gap. It doesn't require a constant ecosystem of guides, tier lists to navigate safely. It doesn't punish creativity or reward prior knowledge over imagination. It just lets people play. And here's the thing. It doesn't do that by dumbing anything down. The veteran at the table still made smart choices. They still thought carefully about their build. They still got to express their knowledge of the system. They just didn't get a mechanical advantage for doing it, because the rules stopped handing them out. That's not a utopia. That's just good game design, and it's entirely achievable. These gaps have specific causes, which means they have specific fixes. I spent 4 years and roughly 5,000 hours on those fixes. Not because I hate 5th edition. I love 5th edition. I've been playing it since it launched. But I kept running into the same friction at table after table, campaign after campaign. New players showing up uncertain, veteran players accidentally dominating, DMs quietly adjusting encounters to mend gaps the rules should have handled. Everyone working around the same structural problems, session after session. Because that's just how the system is. I don't want to accept that that's just how the game system is. So this channel is where that work lives. Every video is going to go deep on a specific part of the system. What the current rules do, why they create the gaps they create, and what a targeted fix looks like. Classes, subclasses, spell lists, the attribute system, the action economy, all of it. Piece by piece, with real numbers and before and after comparisons so that you can see exactly what changes and why. This isn't theory. These rules have been play tested. Bad builds don't exist. Unbalanced games create them. And over the course of this channel, I'm going to show you exactly how we prove it. If you're a veteran, I think you're going to find the design reasoning generally interesting, even if you push back on some of it. If you're a new player, I think you're going to finish the series and feel like the game was always supposed to be this approachable. And if you're a DM, I think you're going to find that a balanced table is dramatically easier to run, and a lot more welcoming. If any of this resonated with you, if you've ever felt that optimization anxiety, or watched a new player feel it, or just quietly wondered whether the game could be a little more fair to people who don't do homework before they play, hit subscribe. Every video on this channel is going to build on this one, and you're going to look at your character sheet a little differently after we go through the whole thing. There are two Dales on this channel. One of them spent 4 years fixing Dungeons & Dragons. The other one is going to help you play it.